Hello Nidorinas and Nidorinos, I'm KingNido, and today it is the Petalburg Razors going up against the Levincia Wonders, and this last match in round 8 of the PokeType League TCG has huge ramifications because for the Petalburg Razors, they need this win to secure their first ever berth inside of Victory Road, whereas for the Levincia Wonders, they need a victory to ensure that their season hopes will stay alive. With so much riding on this game, let us know in the comments below who you think is going to win this matchup. Will it be the Colorless decks? Will it be the Lightning decks? Let's go!
3, 2, 1, go!
And going first, it is going to be that Fuego Ironworks deck of the Levincia Wonders, moving the Pachirisu into the active spot. They've got the Electabuzz on the bench. It's the Cyclizar from the Fast Days deck of the Razors, with one of their 2 Starly and the Chatot going onto the bench. Both these teams can actually set up really quickly, but the Razors need to be very careful because 2 of their 2 benched Pokemon are actually weak to the Lightning types, as the second Luxio is pulled for the Wonders. They've already got the Electivire in hand as well, the second Chatot being pulled for the Petalburg Razors, and you have to think that's probably why they wanted Cyclizar in the active spot, because it doesn't have that weakness to the Lightning types. It does go with that over acceleration, and now every time it goes for it following, after doing that 20 damage, it's now going to do 40 damage. The Wonders pull the Iono. I don't think they want to play it whilst they've got that Electabuzz, the Electivire in hand, but they do bring that Electivire onto the bench, and they go with the Plasma from the Pachirisu. It only does 10 damage, but it also generates an additional energy from the energy zone that they can move onto Electivire, who only needs 2, but with the 2, it does 40 damage. If they can get an additional 2 onto it, it will do 120 damage. As the Staravia is pulled for the Razors, they immediately get it online and get the first energy required. As they want to set up that Staraptor, who does require 3 energy, they get the 40 damage onto the Pachirisu, bringing it down to 10 health, and it is the Giant Cape being pulled for the Levincia Wonders. They're going to get it onto the Electivire, taking its health all the way up to 140, which means it can actually outlast a Brave Bird from that Staraptor that can do 130 damage. The Plasma continues from the Pachirisu. This is actually going to get a 3rd energy onto the Electivire here. It only needs 1 more energy before it can start dishing out 120 damage. The Wigglytuff being pulled for the Petalburg Razors. It has that Comforting Song, but they don't have a Jigglypuff in hand or even on the bench. The 2nd energy onto the Staravia, and it is another over acceleration to allow the Razors to take the first point here in game 1 of our best of 3 series. And as we always say, all 3 games are played because they all count towards the leaderboard regardless of the outcome of the first 2 matches. And as we only have 1 round left after this matchup, every point and bit of damage counts. The Rocky Helmet being pulled for the Wonders. Again, they've got an energy now onto the Electivire, taking it to 4 energy, and they're going to play the Iono. They had no other basic Pokemon in hand, both teams having to shuffle their hands. They get the Volkner, they get the Electabuzz, the Luxray, and the Professor's Research. We see the Barry, X-Speed, Staraptor, and Wigglytuff for the Razors. They get the Electabuzz online, but there's 120 damage to take the Cyclizar off the board. Now, we mentioned the Razors having that Brave Bird Staraptor, but that's the clutch Staraptor that they've got in hand. That is not the one that they need here. So they're going to move the Chatot into the active spot. They do get a Pokeball, so they can get an additional basic Pokemon out of their deck. Now with Chatot, it does that Fury attack. It gets 3 coin flips. For every heads, it does 20 damage. They don't want to use the Staraptor yet, but they do get that Jigglypuff that they got from the Pokeball, moving it onto the bench. They want to try and get as much damage as they can. If they can get 60 damage onto the Electivire, they will bring it down to having only 80 health, but they only get the first 2. That 3rd one was a Tails. They bring it down to 100 health. Otherwise, the clutch Staraptor actually would have been able to take it off the board. Another Volkner being pulled for the Levincia Wonders as they play the Professor's Research. They get a Luxio. They get the Shinx as well. They've got the entire Luxray line in hand. That's where that Volkner comes in handy. It can move discarded energy to either an Electivire or a Luxray, and Luxrays have to discard all their energy, but the Electivire doesn't, as it continues with this exciting voltage. 140 damage onto the Chatot. They need 1 more point to lock up game 1 here, as the Razors are going to move the Staravia. They need their 2nd Staraptor, and they get their 2nd Jigglypuff. That is not the card they needed. They are going to move their clutch Staraptor. Again, it only does 80 damage. It is not enough to take the Electivire off the board. They needed that 3rd heads flip from the Chatot earlier on, because then it would have been successful in taking down the Electivire. They go with the clutch. Electivire is clutch, going to hold on with 20 health remaining. And the Wonders pull their second Shinx, but they're just going straight for this exciting voltage, because thanks to that weakness, it does 140 and takes the Staraptor out. And this Fuego Ironworks has been very fast at taking down the fast stage deck of the Wonders. The Razors need to win their next 2 games, but as we have a board reset, if you're enjoying what we're seeing, please leave a like, share, subscribe, leave a comment on who you think is going to win, as all interactions help out the channel. But it is the Razors with their Hall of Origin deck going first. They move the Porygon into the active spot. It's the Magnemite from the fully charged deck of the Levincia Wonders going into their active spot. Both teams only moving 1 basic Pokemon there onto the board. And the Razors are going to pull their Pokemon Center Lady. Now they do have that second Porygon that they do choose to move onto the bench. They've also got a Giant Cape, and we can see the Porygon 2 in hand. The Wonders pulling the Magneton, and they've already got the Magnezone. They've got an Electrode as they play the Pokeball. They want to switch it out and get a Voltorb, but instead they get the Rotom, who can capitalize if a Pokemon tool like that Giant Cape is on the opposing Pokemon in the active spot. And the Wonders are going to get that first energy onto the Magnemite. This Ram only does 10 damage, just a little bit of chip damage onto that Porygon, but you have to think the Razors are surely going to evolve that very soon into the Porygon 2. They are going to pull their own Pokeball, which surely they will play to get another basic Pokemon into their hand. And it is going to be the Bidoof. They've got the Bibarel also in hand. They've got those Regigigas and Arceus that they've got in this deck, this Hall of Origin deck, as the Porygon 2 now online. It does do 30 damage with that Sharpen, and they're still going to put the Giant Cape onto it as well, taking its health up to 90, and they do get that 1 required energy. Now the Porygon Z requires 3 energy for that Buggy Beam if they're hoping to make things complicated for this fully charged deck, but it does bring that Magnemite down to 30 health. The Voltorb being pulled for the Levincia Wonders. They immediately get that online as they've got the Electrode in hand, the Magneton coming online, that Lightning Bolt. Sorry, not Lightning Bolt. Lightning Ball does require a second energy that they get onto it. It does 50 damage to the Porygon 2 as they continue on this offensive pressure. They want to lock up this series in game 2. It is the Porygon Z being pulled for the Petalburg Razors. They're immediately going to get it online. They want it to be able to outlast a Magnezone. Not that they know it's in hand, they just want to be safe here. They do get an energy onto the Porygon Z. It's got 2 on it now. The Bibarel coming online as well, and there's the Pokemon Center Lady to also restore 30 health from the Porygon Z, bringing it up to 130 health remaining, but cannot take this Magneton off the board. The Wonders are going to pull their Rocky Helmet, and they will be able to get this Magnezone online without interruption, but they also get that Rolling Attack Electrode online, who only requires 1 energy to do 50 damage. But the Magnezone gets that Rocky Helmet, it gets that 3rd energy. They've got the Iono in hand. It is the only card in hand between these 2 sides. It goes for the Thunder Blast and 110 damage onto the Porygon Z, bringing it down to only 20 health remaining. This Buggy Beam can randomize the energy that's generated in the energy zone, but for Magnezone, it doesn't need another lightning energy. As the Arceus is pulled by the Razors, they immediately get it onto the bench. There's 80 damage being done to the Magnezone here, and they are going to generate a water energy on the next turn, but the Rocky Helmet is also going to take the Porygon Z off the board as the Wonders take the first point, and the Razors need to think about who they want to take 110 damage from the Magnezone. Not the Bibarel, who's been moved into the active spot, can actually outlast the hit. They do pull their Rotom, their second Rotom, into their hand. And the Wonders thinking about how they want to approach this. They do get an energy onto the Magnezone. The Razors want to actually pull their second Porygon 2 because it can do enough damage to take the Magnezone off the board as the Magnezone takes out that Bibarel from this match, and the Razors thinking about how they want to approach this. Instead, they're going with the Arceus. Now, the Arceus does require 4 energy. It is the Dawn being pulled for the Razors. They are going to get an energy onto the Arceus, who can outlast a hit from the Magnezone. But things are not looking good for the Razors at the moment. They're in 2nd place on the leaderboard. They would jump to 1st more than likely if they win this. But if they lose this, they won't even secure a spot yet in Victory Road. That is how close things are on the leaderboard. The Thunder Blast from the Wonders, 110 damage onto the Arceus. It has 10 health remaining. The Razors have pulled their Professor's Research. They're going to play it immediately. They need something. They get the Bidoof. and they get the Porygon Z. They don't get a Porygon 2. This is not what they needed. And they are going to get an energy onto the Arceus, but there is not much else they can do, as the Wonders have had a great hand with this fully charged deck. They get another energy onto the Magnezone, and with this Thunder Blast, they wipe Arceus off the board into the discard pile, and the Wonders have locked up this series. But now they're trying to take the clean sweep as we have our final board reset. The Razors, they need to get this win in Game 3 to maximize their points and damage, because they don't want to drop down too far on the leaderboard. And they will be going first with this Bombardment deck. They've got the Apom and the Fan Rotom in hand, but they've also got that Ambipom. They move the Apom into the active spot, the Fan Rotom onto the bench. The Wonders move their Electrike from the Volt Tackle deck, and we can see the Manectric in hand. They've got their Giant Cape and Rocky Helmet, plus another Iono, as the Razors are going to pull their own Giant Cape. They've got their own Rocky Helmet, and they play this Pokeball. They're going to get another basic Pokemon. It is the second Apom. Unfortunately for them, Ambipom only requires 1 energy to go on the offensive. They move the Rocky Helmet onto the Apom, trying to make the Wonders reluctant to go on the offensive. They put a Giant Cape onto that benched Apom as well. And the Wonders do pull their Pawmo. They've got no second basic Pokemon at the moment, but again, they've got that Iono. It can force both teams to have to shuffle their hands into their deck, replacing the cards that they put in their deck, but they may not want to give up that Manectric. But they may not want to risk an Ambipom being that single card in the Razor's hand, and they aren't willing to risk it. They play the Iono. Both teams shuffle their hands into their deck. Team Rocket Grunt for the Razors. They get a Manectric back on the side of the Wonders, plus a Pokeball, so they can get a basic Pokemon, because they also got a Raichu. They get their second Electrike. That's actually a fantastic pull, because if their active Electrike is taken off the board, their Manectric can still be put online. They get 20 damage onto the Apom. With that Rocky Helmet, it does 20 damage back to the Electrike, as they're both wearing Rocky Helmets too at the moment. The Razors pulling their Barry, as they do have those Snorlax cards in their deck. And now that they've no longer got the Ambipom, they only go with the Tail Jab. 20 damage onto the Electrike, 20 damage back to the Apom, and they've both got 20 health remaining. The Pawmot being pulled for the Levincia Wonders, and they are going to get an energy onto that benched Electrike, and they're going to retreat the active Electrike. They don't want to drop any points in this Game 3. The Wonders playing very intelligently, trying to maximize their chances of making it into Victory Road, and with this Flash, they will take the Apom off the board, but they will also have to contend with the 20 damage that the Manectric takes from that Rocky Helmet. But once again, the Wonders looking in control in the early stages of this Game 3. The Razors thinking about how they want to approach this. They go and move the Fan Rotom into the active spot. Clearly, they must be hoping for an Ambipom, as it is the low punny that they pull. They get an energy onto the Fan Rotom. With that Spin Storm, they flip a coin, and if they get a heads, they do require a second energy for this to occur, but if they get a heads, it sends the active Pokemon back into the hand of the Wonders, as the Pawmo is pulled, the Pawmi is pulled. It's put onto the bench. Those names are way too close, and they look way too similar, as the Manectric gets 60 damage thanks to that Fan Rotom, not a Phone Rotom. We haven't seen one of those yet. Being weak to the Lightning types, and the Ambipom has been pulled. It is immediately brought online for the Petalburg Razors, who are going to retreat the Fan Rotom. They don't want to drop another point. They need to flip 2 heads with this double hit. Each heads does 40 damage. They get 1, they need the second one here, and they only get 1. They're not able to take down the Manectric. They were so close, they just needed that coin flip to go the other way as it comes back over to the Wonders. They get the Giant Cape, who they can get onto this Manectric, because it is the Electrike on the bench that is currently wearing that Rocky Helmet. And with this, the Manectric's health goes all the way up to 50, which means it can outlast a double hit from Ambipom once again, and they go with the Flash as well, 40 damage onto the Ambipom. So when Ambipom goes on the offensive, it still needs to flip ahead before it can even try to do damage to the Manectric. The second Fan Rotom being pulled for the Petalburg Razors, brought onto the bench. It does get an energy, and the double hit again. They need to flip this first heads to even try and go on the offensive. They get the first heads, now they get to try for the double hit. They get a Tails. They get 2 Tails, so they got their heads to go on the offensive, but they still did nothing to the Manectric. This is going great for the Wonders. And now the Wonders have pulled the Pikachu. They've already got the Raichu in hand, so they do get an energy onto the Pikachu, as the Raichu does require 2 energy. And there's the Manectric, another flash onto the Ambipom, bringing it down to 30 health, so it's actually in target range for the Manectric. It's in discard range, should I say, as the Snorlax has been pulled for the Razors. They do get a first energy onto it, and they've got that Barrier in hand, so they can bring down the energy cost of that Collapse down to 2, because that's how many it reduces from the Barrier. But they do flip a heads again as they go for the double hit, and they get a heads this time. They get 2. They're going to be able to take down the Manectric. This is fantastic for the Petalburg Razors as they take down the Manectric, but they don't know that in the hand of the Wonders is the Raichu. And I say that because the Raichu does 40 damage to the active Pokemon, but not just that, they can target any of the benched Pokemon of the Razors and do 20 damage to them. And right there on the bench is a Fan Rotom with only 20 health remaining. I'm not even sure the Wonders have realized that, as they do bring on that Pawmo that they just pulled. But with this Spark, 40 damage, they are going to lock up a clean sweep over the Petalburg Razors, and this is huge for the Wonders as they are trying desperately to keep their season alive. They get the double point right at the end to finish this off in strong fashion as they move up into 5th place, and next round they are going up against the Kitakami Rogues, whereas for the Razors they are going up against the top place Olivine Raiders. But until then, Nidorinos, thank you so much for watching. Let us know in the comments below what you thought the best card was, and if you enjoyed what you saw, please leave a like, share, subscribe, but more importantly, always remember, send thanks, and I'll see you when you see me.